Should you sell in May and go away? No, and find out why in today's update on some of the trades you should be taking over the next couple of months. All right, we've all heard the saying, sell in May and go away. The thing about this saying is it's over 50 years old, and really in the last 10 years, this has not been a very good idea for trading or investing. And we just had a historical rally to end the month of April. So, selling in May might sound like a good idea. But before we jump into the charts, let's just take a look at the historical data for the last 10 years. Selling in May has not been a good or really bad idea. It's really been a month that doesn't give us any great returns. 2020 was a good month. But we're going to dive deeper into 2020 because it was an interesting historical outlier due to the COVID rally that occurred back then that all of us still is fresh in our mind. And 2022 was an interesting year as well because that's when we went into the bear market retracement that I will discuss more when we get into the charts. But outside of May, what if you bought in May and held through September? Your return was a little bit over 2%. Nothing terrific, nothing great. But you can see here that we have those outlier years of 2015, 2020, and 2022. What if we held in May and held through October? A little bit better return, almost 4%, 3.25% return. And here you can see that the big outlier years change. And October is an interesting month because you can have, historically speaking, usually some big rallies at the end of October. So could we do something better than just buying in May and holding through October? The answer is, historically speaking, yes. Buy in May and sell at the end of September. This has a very interesting historical trend, and we'll get into it more when we talk about the charts here in a minute. But this has been a very good holding period for the last 10 years. You can see here that 2020 is kind of skewing the data with a 20% return over this period. But 2022 was also a bad year, as we'll talk about more later. And then, last year, this was really nothing to write home about. We didn't have much go on. We had a lot of volatility, which I think is what we're going to have again this year. And volatility is great if you're a trader. And that's what I think we're setting up here for the next 3 to 4 months is some great trading opportunities. Now let's jump into the charts. Okay, I'm going to start off by taking a look at the S&P 500 charts on the daily. Here I want to highlight something very important that happened because this has only happened 10 times in the past. And that is that we had this correction of down to 19% in the S&P 500. And after that correction and the low on April 7th, we have now retraced over 50% of the decline off of the highs that we made on February 19th. Of the 10 times this happened, 9 out of the 10, this marked the low. The one time this didn't happen was 2022, and we continue to have that bear market of 2022. Of the other times it happened, the market continued to rally up after making this low, and we never retested those lows. So that's a very important point here to be highlighting. But we also just had a very historical rally off of these April 7th lows, basically straight up, if you really take a look at this chart. And on Friday, we triggered a DeMark propulsion indicator saying that we're set up for a pullback here to the 535 level, possibly down to 502. I'm hoping we don't have a pullback back to 502. That would be a painful pullback. That would probably scare some of the bulls out of the market. And, we'd hear the bears on TV even more. But I think a pullback this week to 535 is very realistic and healthy for the market. But in addition to that, let's take a look at the combo and sequential indicators, which if you're a follower of me, I'm a big fan of the DeMark indicators, and that's why I'm using the symbolic platform right now. But you can see here that combo called the low on April 7th, saying, hey, this is a great opportunity to start buying. If we missed that, we got the sequential confirmation of selling exhaustion here, another good buying opportunity. But as I mentioned right now, off of this rally, we are now sitting on a sell setup 8. And I expect this sell setup to hit 9, which is what this sell count hits, and perfect Monday, maybe Tuesday of next week. This is going to highlight buying exhaustion for us. And then we should expect a market pullback, just like propulsion is telling us and giving us these great trading levels here. And so I think we don't want to jump in and start buying Monday of next week. Let's see if we can get this pullback and then a small decline. And then we should be looking for buying opportunities and trading opportunities in the month of May. Now, in addition to this, is there any other confirmation out there that the bottom may have been made April 7th? If we take a look at the weekly chart, we'll see here that the DeMark combo and sequential indicators have given us some pretty good buy and sell opportunities over the last couple of years. Here during this rally, we saw some opportunities for a little bit of pullback, a little pause, but really, in hindsight, we all should have paid more attention to the smaller ranges and the DeMark exhaustion signals at the end of December. But, with the Trump rally, it looked like this was going to continue, but we never broke these resistance levels. And now, in the second week of April, we actually got a buy 9 confirmed, perfected buy opportunity setup. And we have now actually had confirmation of this breakout higher. This is why I'm very confident that actually we do not want to sell and go away in May. We want to wait for the pullback, buy that pullback, and get ready to start riding this rally higher through the end of September. Now let's jump into some charts using the Williams indicators for more trading opportunities and maybe the roadmap of where we can see the market go. All right, we're going to finish up this outlook by taking a look at the seasonals and then the Williams %R indicator. You can see here that this seasonal indicator highlights kind of what we just saw from the historical data from the last 10 years. And this is why I prefer a Williams seasonal indicator that updates based off of recent data, not just historical trends over the last 50 years. And right here, right now, the seasonal indicator said, hey, we'll start rallying, beginning of April and end of April, first week of May, we expect a peak and a pullback for 2 weeks, which just aligned with what we're seeing with the DeMark indicators after this recent rally. This is why I'm saying we don't want to sell in May and go away. We want to look for buying opportunities over the next couple weeks to catch a rally all the way up and into possibly the end of August, the end of September. You can see here on the seasonal for this year, we're looking at a rally based on the seasonal says that could end at the beginning of August, not the end of September. But you can see here that it's really kind of flat and choppy until the end of August. So that's why I think right now we should be looking for buy signals and great trading opportunities in the S&P 500 after the short pullback in May. And we can ride this probably until the end of July, August, possibly September. So let's take a quick look at the current market setup and what we're looking at using the daily chart of, this is actually the S&P 500 futures contract. You can see here we are in this ugly downtrend that ended on April 7th. But now the trend of momentum is up. The daily has moved up. So the trend is back up after us being in this downtrend for a while. We're currently oversold using the Williams %R on a 4-day instance. And we had a great buy signal back here when it dipped down into the oversold area. So what I will be looking for is this pullback I'm expecting after we hit the buying exhaustion early this week. And then when we get back into oversold on the Williams percent R, that's going to be my indicator to look for buy signals and trading opportunities in the market. I don't know what your buy setups are, but right now, as I'm highlighting for everybody out there, I think we're setting up for another great buying opportunity and a continuation of this rally. So look for buy signals in the S&P 500 in the month of May. Good luck with your trading, and I'll see you next time.